Hey, welcome back. I'm Matt,
I'm Rose.
and this is the StoryCoach.net show. We really need to think of a title for this.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has any good title pitches, let's do that.
Yeah, pitch us some titles, guys.
It'll take a second for our audience to build back up because we took a break, but I apologize for nothing.
Shameless. All right, what are we doing next, Matt?
Well, I like Reddit. It's I got my start on Screenwriting. It's where I first started posting articles, and it's where I really sharpened my understanding of the industry.
Mm-hmm. You can learn a lot of cool stuff on there.
When I started, I was a guy who'd sold a couple scripts, but I didn't really know what I knew or how I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And Reddit really makes you argue for all of the knowledge you have.
Well, I feel like sometimes people have a natural instinct for something, so they might kind of get lucky and make something good, writing or whatever it may be, but then they don't know how to recreate it because they don't know how they did it. So it's kind of nice to like rewind and see why what you did worked so that you can be consistent in the future. If that makes any sense?
Well, in sports, and I know we're all huge sports fans because we're all watching the screenwriting show instead of the Super Bowl.
Totally.
In sports, there's a saying you should go check the tape or break down tape, and that's just a matter of watching tape of your or someone else's performance to see a weakness in their game or your own game.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you see stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily see. For example, when I watch these videos again, which is often hard because I hate my voice and face.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I see a lot of things about posture or delivery.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, I said like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I talked too fast. I didn't emotionalize words, and I don't have that ability to do it real well. Like, I don't think anyone out there is blown away by my range and expressiveness. Top 10 Trivia asks, guys, do Untamed love? If you want me to do that, shoot me a link or message me on Reddit, or if you don't have the ability to do that, check me out on Twitter, which is at Story Coaching, which is also where you can find out what Rose and I are up to
Mm-hmm.
and see if we're going to be doing a show because we have not stuck to a schedule, nor do I think we ever will.
Yeah, we just got places to be, things to do.
Don't you have something crazy, fun to do tonight?
Improv show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You excited?
I feel like nobody's gonna be there because it's Super Bowl. Well, I don't know. Do improv people watch sports? Let's see. There's never anyone at those shows, though.
It's low percentage. You want to plug your improv group? Get some viewers out there?
Yeah. I'm in an improv group called Garage, and we perform around LA.
You got a Twitter?
You should come. We don't have a Twitter for our group. We should.
You should.
We
Or
should.
something. I don't like tweeting. All right, so let's take a look at what's on Reddit right now. We have a discussion. Weekly script. Discussion. Women under the influence. I like these. I like that people are looking at scripts and discussing them.
Mm-hmm.
They're rarely very popular.
So this is a film that was made.
Oh, you want me to do Untombed Love, which, got it. I'm on board. We got Craig Mazin, the very talented writer of Identity Thief, saying, stop telling each other what the job is unless he's cranky, but smart. A Screencraft Nashville live read contest.
What does that mean?
What kind of schmuck would want their script read aloud by two strangers?
Somebody twisted.
And it links to a 404.
Nice.
Lovely. We got Suicide Note, dark comedy, which I guess wasn't sent for feedback to us.
Been there, done that.
Ooh, a Logline. I love doing these. I also like reading Reddit and to see the timbre of the argument that follows afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
A slacker and his future self embark on a journey to save the world from an unstoppable monster by using a time machine to advance the pace of technological process. But can they uplift humanity enough to fight this monster? And where did this monster come from? I want to know if the technological progress involves giant mecha robots, or Soul Blades, or Final Fantasy VII stuff, or Robocops.
Yeah, I feel like it's not specific enough where I know like the type of monster, the like type of setting, the type of like, are we in the future? Is this a parallel universe? Like, I feel like I'm not getting a really good visual of
Right, this
what
could be
I'm
a
gonna
Western.
see.
There's really no reason this couldn't be a
Yeah, it
Western.
could be Wild Wild West. Will Smith.
I don't think you need the second bit, says Razorpack, but focus on the first part. I might be misunderstanding what you mean by a slacker in his future self. P.S. For loglines, just like for many other things, there are no strict rules. Just think about your goal, grabbing people's interest without wasting words. Good advice,
Yeah.
and I feel like this was marginal on grabbing my interest because future self, potentially interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Advancing technological process could be interesting.
Yeah.
Or it could be the kind of Rick and Morty episode that it's only just one thing.
Right.
Having a time travel device in a story opens huge potential for plot holes and taking circuitous routes to service the plot. All right, that's helpful. I guess don't write time travel scripts according to.
I mean, yeah, that's basically just saying like don't do them ever because it's not gonna work. I mean, yeah, you can do them badly, but you can also not have plot holes in them.
I'm going to guess the twist is this: the monster is created by the same technology brought to humanity to fight the monster. No, but similar. Their efforts are indeed related to the creation of the monster. Okay, that's essentially the plot of the Star Trek finale for Next Generation.
Interesting.
Is this plagiarism? That looks very unpopular. 10 important screenwriting contests and deadlines. That's a really useful article. Everyone should check that out if you're serious, because contests are a good way to see if you've got chops.
Mm-hmm.
I know you got to pay money to enter a lot of them, but if you live outside of Hollywood, they're pretty much the best way to get noticed.
Yeah.
Unless you got a cousin in the industry.
Yeah, because just trying to email your script to agents doesn't really. Have you ever known that to work for somebody? Just like without knowing the assistant or something, somebody just emails a script to like CAA and they're like, yeah, nice.
No, because CAA has an entire mailroom, which I used to work in, that is devoted to not reading these and screening them out.
You just throw them in the trash?
Mm-hmm. Do I have to outline my story or script? Why do people ask this question?
Well, that's what I was just talking about, is like I feel like so many writers are like, I don't do outlines, I don't think they're necessary, and I think it's
Does
so
anyone
important.
Reading out there not believe in outlining? And if so, why? Leave a comment down below or message me if we're live.
I mean, I think that you just save yourself so much time because you're looking at like a 6-page outline and you see something not working, you just fix that. If you wrote, a 60-page script and it's not working, you just wasted time writing all these scenes and dialogues that might just get cut or changed.
Matt, the manager's question there is interesting. I don't catch that.
Is Matt, the manager's question there is interesting. Oh, the manager? What are you talking about? I don't know. Hell no, outlining is essential for me, but you learn that the outline is not set in stone.
Well, sure. I mean,
yeah.
But I don't think anyone is saying once you outline, you must do it, or else the screenplay gods will come and smite you with their Courier 12-point blade. Oh, Standard Issue wants us to go back to a manager question. Remember how I used to not be able to do this when I was streaming?
Yeah. Figured out our technology a little better, huh?
I'm sure I've read where some people write a few key scenes before an outline. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that can help you flesh out the characters, right? Wouldn't you say?
Well, sure. You might have an idea for, say, a gunfight, right? And it's just your generic kind of gunfight. Mm-hmm. But you see that the woman in question is actually a dumpy suburban mom who's got a baby under her arm. And then the question would be, how did this happen? And how does the addition of the baby make this more like Lone Wolf and Cub? How does that infant? What do managers look for? And do I have enough under my belt to pique interest in a semi-decent one? Got it. All right. I am going to say the most uncharismatic thing I'll say in public, which is I feel that there's too much emphasis placed in the aspiring writer community on spec scripts. Like, I gotta sell, I gotta sell. I gotta sell my pilot, I gotta make it to air, I gotta, sell my feature or else it's all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen, but it's a low percentage shot. There's also an entire other industry of open writing assignments where a producer might need a sequel to an existing movie or a remake or just to polish.
Yeah.
Say there's a thriller script with bad female characters, they might hire a woman to punch it up,
Right.
as categorist as that may be. Just curious, what qualities managers look for when selecting clients? I'm considering actively seeking out a manager, but questioning whether or not I have enough to get my foot in the door. Published critique for reputable media in the past 20 years. Screenwriting for the past 1.5 years. 2 completed full-length films. 1 television series. Top 10% finalists for Nichols. Semi-finalists for the Austin Film Festivals. Scores between 7 to 9 on the blacklist. Thoughts? Thanks in advance, BH. I feel like this guy buried the lead because he put the most interesting stuff on the bottom.
Yeah, I feel like.
And the published critique for reputable media is the top thing, and that's the least interesting or pertinent to screenwriting.
Yeah, I would say those last 3 are the most impressive to me. I mean, obviously, you want to have some work, some samples, so you do need to mention that, but I would put that later.
The real answer, here's 120 pages. He's a grump, and he disagrees with me a lot, but he's very smart.
Okay.
You're ready for a manager when you have so many paying jobs that you need advice to help you choose the right ones, or when managers start tracking you down and offering to rep you. Before that, you're likely to end up with a weak rep or a low level of enthusiasm. Either one of these can actually slow down a career.
Would you agree with that?
I had my manager before I had a lot of offers, and she put me in rooms that got me, some work down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And someone might say, well, Matt, your career's not going gangbusters, but I don't think that's on the manager. I think that's on me. I take ownership for...
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of the same with acting. It's like, yeah, you'll get a better manager if you have a lot of good roles under your belt, if you're in hot demand, but you might not get any roles at all unless you have a manager to get you in the room.
Here, you be 120 pages.
Okay.
Let's see what else he has to say.
You network, you get low-level development people to read you. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
God damn it, Matt. You network, you get low-level development people to read you. You submit to smaller companies that will accept a script with a release form. The real trick is to get to know people working for buyers. That's the real value of film school. You meet the young producers who are going to be young execs. You can come up together and help each other. I do think that's good advice for anything, really.
Sure.
Thanks to the internet, these are meetups and other groups that let you connect with folks like that. Also join trackingboard.com or online forums like it. They are what give you info about what assignments are open and who will read an unrepresented writer. If all else fails, get a low-level job in production and make yourself indispensable. Someone you meet on the job will read your script and give you a leg up. That's the way it works. Go look up Bill Martell. He's gotten over a dozen movies made from his scripts without an agent or a manager.
And here's Diet Coca-Cola. None of his movies are any good. I really hate when people bring up an argument like that.
But I feel like if you get them made, there's a certain level of goodness.
Yeah, it's like, there's something called the just world bias, which is we really want the world to make sense. We want people who are rich to be hardworking or good, or preferably both. And we want the world to protect us, so that if we are good and hardworking, we will never know sorrow or pain or failure. But I don't think the world works that way. And
not always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The race is not always to the swift. So there are writers out there who are probably more talented than any of us watching, who will never be screenwriters simply because they didn't grow up in a world where English is a language they can write in.
Right.
I have no idea why you have 3 episodes of a TV series written. Are you the one greenlighting it?
That did seem a little strange to me because I feel like the more popular option is just writing a pilot and leaving it there, right?
So you've scored 7. That's true. So you've scored 79 on Blacklist and top 10 in Nichols and no traction. Bummer. I would have thought you'd have a manager like by now. That's true. I mean,
Yeah.
those are impressive career accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who got an 8 on Blacklist and instantly signed with one of the top 4 agents. So it's like, maybe, I don't know if he even met with anybody.
Yeah. Oh wait, I know this guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think he's from where I'm from.
I will say the situation I'm talking about. He got a high score on Blacklist, and then he emailed all the assistants and people he knew that worked at agencies and was like, "Yo, I have this Blacklist score. Can you forward this to an agent and see if they're interested in meeting with me?" So it's possible, like, if you don't make that effort, that no one's gonna know that you're on the Blacklist. Like, I know they have those emails that go out, but I think you also have to probably make an effort to advertise the fact that you got that score.
I feel like a lot of these answers haven't really addressed the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Just curious what qualities managers look for when selecting clients. And I see this a lot where people are so desperate to be clever and have a nice soundbite and like look smart and feel good about themselves that they'll never hit the nuance of an argument. Because no one's really answered what the qualities are that they're looking for. Like we've heard, don't get a manager, which isn't a direct answer to the question. We've heard we want a cracking script, and what the hell is that?
Right.
And we've heard some questions on why haven't these credentials gotten more traction, which I would think they would, because
I would too, yeah. So do you have a good answer for what do managers look for?
Well,
without beating around the bush like these people? It's a tough question.
I do have an answer. It's reductive, and I don't want to be wrong or mocked for it, so I'm kind of overthinking it a little bit. So if I calibrate this, I apologize. What do women look for?
In a partner?
Yeah, straight women, heteronormative. Yeah, it's hard to answer, but there are some things that are globally true, right?
Yeah, I'd say that there's like maybe 5 or 10 qualities that are universally seeked out.
Neediness, insecurity, ugliness, low social status,
Yeah.
no sense of humor.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Or the opposite, right? Because you essentially want to be impressed, because it also comes down to what a woman wants from a guy, because the woman who wants a passionate one-night stand is going to be different than the one who wants to settle down.
Right, exactly.
So it's important to know your audience, and you got to ask yourself, what do managers want? And if you're struggling to know, then it's difficult to write to what they want. I believe that managers are looking for a client that is easy to package and slot into open writing slots. Feel free to correct me, and honestly, the fact getting into a Twitter beef via this show would be awesome. So maybe I should just start calling people out. But I believe a manager wants a client that's easy to package, that they can say, "Hey, comedy producer, this is Rose. She is a comedy writer. If you're looking for a Bridesmaids type rewrite, or someone to do a sequel or directed, this is her. Here are her 3 samples illustrating what she can do with character, comedy, and plot. Please read them, analyze them, and make the right choice. Hire Rose." Because that's the easiest money, open writing assignments, because selling a script is much more difficult.
Right.
And there aren't many managers that advertise themselves as, "I'm the script sales manager."
Right. They kind of do it all. Yeah. What about the difference between, do you think they tend to want their represented writers to do one thing, like just go out for TV staff writing positions, or just be a screenplay writer? Like, do you think that they like it when you're like very specific like that, or they like people who can do
I'm sure
it
it
all?
varies from manager to manager.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a tendency to categorize people.
Yeah.
Like as a young geeky nerd guy, I am a more natural fit for sci-fi, horror, and action than I am for period drama or
Right.
It's not that I couldn't, or that there aren't guys who look just like me who aren't doing those jobs. It's just the natural tendency is to slot it in.
Yeah.
And by the same token, write a rom-com.
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
Ladies Teddy, Liz Lover. What? You write sci-fi? I'm diminishing you.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. When you take a meeting, people automatically get an impression of you based on how you look and your personality.
Right.
And yeah, good or not, that happens.
Yeah, and if you look at the very successful screenwriters who work a lot, and even the ones that comment, Mason works in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He does very successful studio comedies.
Right.
And anyone who would write something like Insidious or Paranormal Activity is likely to get more work in that category. So I think that's just a reality of the market.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing because most people do have one category that they're more interested in. Like, I'd be fine as being categorized just like what you just said. Like, that is what interests me.
Some people just hate being categorized, though.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you had a discussion about screenwriting that ended with, you know what, I'm an artist. You can't put me into any one box.
Yeah. It just simplifies things. But yeah, I can understand not wanting to be limited when you're more
Standard
than that.
Issue says he's done The Huntsman now, though. Fair point. So you can eventually evolve out of it, or get more categories. For example, Joss Whedon went from being the guy who did quirky TV shows to big budget sci-fi TV shows to being a huge Marvel director.
Yeah, I mean, I think
so your career can evolve along that trajectory, but it's difficult to go out and say I play basketball, football, and tennis at a professional level.
Well, it's kind of the same with acting. They're always like, hey, know your type and play what's easy for you. Mm-hmm. And then once you've booked some roles doing that, then you can go do some crazy thing where you're playing a character that people wouldn't necessarily think just looking at you and meeting you. But they're like, don't try to do those crazy out there things that are very unlike you at the beginning. Like, prove yourself.
Let me ask
then
you,
do that.
Do the kids in acting class uniformly accept the wisdom of that advice, or is there a small vocal minority that says no?
Oh, there definitely is. But I agree with it just from the fact that that's what's going to happen. You know? I'm not going to get cast as, like, some, like an example would be, like, what was that Bob Dylan movie where they had 5 different actors?
I'm not there.
Yeah, like, Cate Blanchett's first role isn't going to be playing Bob Dylan. But she proved herself as a very good actress in, like, British period pieces, which she's very good at, and now they're like, okay, you're pretty great at that. I bet you could branch out and do other things that are less like you.
I have this argument a lot. It's the ethos argument that someone who's got an image or pre-existing successes has more opportunities than someone who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that seems true in a lot of things, but it seems to be a very uncharismatic one.
Yeah.
Let's do one more Reddit thing, and then take another little 2-minute break it up, and we can jump back into it. We can look at untuned love.
Sounds good.
Yeah, untuned. Let's see what this is. I'm curious. This guy wrote a pretty good hook because I desperately want to know what the annoying question is.
Yeah.
When adding character emphasis to a word, in a character's dialogue, is it most common to make the word bold, italic, underlined, or capitalized? And if you're going to respond, don't tell the actors how to do their jobs. Please don't. It's our job to tell the actors what to do. Thoughts on that?
I feel like I see it the most. Well, I guess I see them all now that I think about it. Bold, italic, and underlined to emphasize a word. Yeah, I've seen them all.
Do you believe it's the writer's job to tell the actor what to do?
I hear very different opinions on that. At one acting school I was going to, they're like, the writers are above you. Do what's on the page. Don't make them explain it to you.
See, my scene study class, which is one of the big ones, said ignore the italics.
Yeah, and then I went to another school where I'm currently going, and they're like, just interpret it the way you want. Everybody's an individual. They hired you for you. So, I don't know. I think it depends on what it is. I think if it's like a multicam sitcom.
I think Craig Mason's got a great answer here because he works and
yeah, let's see what he says.
Underlining is fine, italics is fine, slightly more subtle emphasis, and bold is fine as well. Although I like bolding at least because I bold my slug lines. That's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little off model, but people seem to like it because it breaks up the script.
Yeah.
God, does it break up the script? So, I think Craig Mason has the answer. It's all fine.
I think it's all fine. I think that the show or the movie will hopefully make it clear to the actors whether they care how closely they follow it. Because I think different acting schools have very different opinions on it. And I see both sides. I see if it was written to be very specifically said in a certain way, you want to make that as clear as possible in the writing and hope that the actor just follows it. But the actor might also do something that's even funnier or more interesting.
We're seeing the origin of why Craig wrote that "Don't tell the screenwriter to do our job" thing, because he's arguing down here. Like, he's mad at this one. Read the screenwriter's Bible if you're not sure. Get some great info in there. Have you ever read the screenwriter's Bible?
I actually haven't.
I've read almost every screenwriting book, and that's the one I never touched.
Was there a reason you just never got to it, or you don't think it's a good book?
It's boring. I like Thinky Theory, and it's kind of a boring book.
Yeah.
And who are you to tell other people what our job is? Do you do that job? Are you a paid writer? I swear to God, I'm going to lose my shit. Shit is being lost right now. And, yep.
How do you feel about that? Like, do you, like, say you wrote a show, and the actors have been chosen, and they don't really follow, like, they don't emphasize the word you bolded or something. Like, would that bother you?
No, not really.
It wouldn't bother me. But I would also want the actors to be people that I feel like really embody the characters and just, like, naturally would make the choices that sort of make sense.
I feel like Punchline Rebels writes, I feel like that you, the writer, can do whatever you want as long as your intention is clear. I think the format structure is a lot looser than some assume. I agree. I would also add the caveat that if you're going to do something, do it consistently, because nothing looks more amateurish than if you switch styles all the way through.
Yeah, like sometimes use italics, sometimes use bolds. Like, that's no bueno.
Like, I actually use 2 hyphens in a slug line, and that might not be proper, but so long as you do it consistently,
Exactly.
nobody gives a crap. The other thing is, one of my favorite lines of all time is from, I've got a book up there, it's the Frasier scripts. And there's a line where it says, Frasier's face goes pale. And they have a parenthetical, clearly intended for Kelsey Grammer, saying, note, a really good actor could do this. So that's just the writers having fun with Kelsey, because they really enjoyed him, and he was kind of a cool star to work with, I hear.
That's funny, I like that.
Yeah, consensus underline. But it's such a weird thing that I read a lot of scripts, and I don't have a strong expectation of it. For example, Craig, who's more successful than anyone here, bolds their slug lines. I think that's a great idea, as long as you do it consistently again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it makes it easier to read. All right, I think that's it for Reddit, unless there's anything else that's fun. And I don't think there is.
What are we going to do next?
Ooh, actually, this is interesting. Now, this is what people say when they mean the concept. It's not a script, but a comic, which it started a fundraiser campaign and achieved its goal in 4 days, 30,000. After miraculously surviving being gunned down by police, a young man learns that he's part of the biggest lie in history. Now he must decide whether it's safer to keep it a secret or the truth will set him free. I'll be honest, the logline itself isn't that great. But the concept is, in a world that already fears and hates them, what if only black people had superpowers? That's really, really good.
Oh, that's interesting. I like it.
I wish I'd thought of that.
That's funny.
Yeah, see, goddammit, I wish I came up with that. And what's great about that, to me, is you can automatically unpack that in your mind. If you're liberal, you might say, oh my God, the conservatives would this as, use this to demonize or otherwise black people.
Right.
And if you're conservative, you might say, oh, the SJWs would really have a field day with that.
Yeah.
I don't believe either position, obviously, but... And then, that's really cool. Let's see what Reddit said. Isn't that pretty much the majority-minority relationship that X-Men plays on? I don't see that's interesting of a premise on its own.
I mean, I guess it's kind of similar. of like the underdogs getting
Well,
all the power.
it also makes it alternate history. Like, what's the coolest
Yeah.
part about the Watchmen movie, where you see how the superheroes affected it?
Right.
How would the March to Selma have gone if Martin Luther King was flying over that?
Yeah, it would butterfly affect all of history to a completely different current world.
That sounds hilarious. My biggest nightmare is it might be made by the Wayans. I don't see anything implying the 60s area. Where are you getting that from? I feel like logline and tagline is interesting enough to get some reads without all the things they normally want from a logline. Well, the point of a logline is to hook. You know, that would be the black superhero story.
Right.
I don't understand the downvotes on this.
I mean, it's very original. Like, one thing I always immediately think when I read a log line is like, oh, this reminds me of this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the X-Men comparison is kind of true, but I didn't initially think like, oh, that sounds like this thing that's already been done.
Now, my question then becomes, and I'm just going to do a little poking around because I'm so curious. Does anyone here not like that? Or does anyone here not see why that's a very fraught concept? Like, I would see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about that is it unpacks. I already see certain elements of it. Like, I can imagine what the villains would look like, because they'd all be Lex Luthors without power. Or maybe they're... My gut reaction is that some people really don't like anything even remotely perceived as social justice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that they're wrong. It's just that it's not people's cup of tea. And there also seems to be a trend of some nerd media like sci-fi and games, having issues with representation. And again, that's a really loaded thing, and I don't think enough people are ever going to see this in the time where it's going to be a relevant statement.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of people with superpower, writes Eric Beck. Absolutely, but
would.
That's also the premise of like Planet X, where all the mutants get superpowers.
Mm-hmm. The concept is great, and you can tell from the logline that alone, that is the focus, would be so far removed from what the X-Men go for. It would just have to be done right. Yeah.
I mean, I would certainly hope an African-American author came up with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
yeah, I would assume so.
It might be a little cringy, like if someone who wasn't, but I think that's cool. You unpack it, it's in your head, and you get exactly what it is. Not for everyone, but the people who would like it would like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's us looking through Reddit. I think we sort of saw the general trend.
Yeah.
I see that there's a lot of vague information. I see that Craig Mason rules on the because he's the most successful person who regularly posts on our screenwriting. And I see a lot of good questions.
Yeah. It's a very good tool.
So that's about it for us for now. This is the end of this episode. We are going to take a 2-minute break for anyone watching on the live stream and then come back in a little bit. So thank you for your patience, and we will see you in a second.